Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Ben Pearl. So today we have a very special guest. We met at Dulles Airport. I was heading out to a sports medicine conference, and he was on his way to somewhere. I have with me the Honorable Bob Weiner, and he has been around running for, well, before I was born. And he's going to give
Oh,
us
geez.
a lot of anecdotes. And sort of has many hats. He's wearing one, but one of his hats is that he has been a media and strategy consultant for many politicos throughout, starting with, I guess, the 70s, 80s, and all the way up to current times. Recently on CNN, and still being tapped in for his knowledge about the elderly and running and health. And also, in particular, he's going to tell us about some of the agencies that he was instrumental in pushing forward. Thank you so much for this random interview, which ends up being good for both of us.
Well, thanks. I rarely get my life story into an interview. So thanks, Dr. Ben, with what you do for the sport too. You have a very unique podcast, and everyone is privileged to be able to be part of it and to see it.
Appreciate it. Well, tell me about your passion for running. How did it start?
Well, since eighth grade, I've run. And I started off being 3 minutes behind the last person and then won the handicapped award for the most improved in eighth grade, with starting off with an 8 minute mile and ending with a 5:20 mile. So
Where did you run? What state
Blair
were you?
Academy, New Jersey. And then I finally took third in the state meet and captained the cross country team and won the most valuable runner trophy at my school. The first ever they created it. And then I was the first winner of it. So I'm very proud of what you can do in running, which is you can become mediocrely good by pure training. My dream was always, hey, look at Peter Snell and Lydiard's workouts gee, I'll do 20 quarters, I'll do 100-mile weeks. And I did that in college and all that. And I did all the workouts, double workouts, and added up. And great, I got to mile in the 420s. So there are genetic limitations to what you can achieve through training, but not with your fitness. I was very proud that the guy who was second in the Olympics and we had a little news conference at the National Press Club, and my pulse rate was only 10 behind his. And he says he does the same thing that I do at the doctor's office, which is you pretend you're in the middle of an interval workout and you take your rest and then you get your pulse tested and it shoots way down. His into the God knows what 30s, and mine got to like 42 or something. So that's a strategy. You get in such incredible shape with running that you get to live longer. And my parents, this is one of my motives. My mother and father both died in their 50s. I'm 77 and I feel active. I was out at the Roosevelt Island Park run today and finished. I won't say what the pathetic time was, but it doesn't matter. It's continuing on.
Tell us about that. You said that is kind of an open thing. You've always been running is the people's sport. So tell us about how one would get into this park thing that's all over the world.
Oh, I'm so burned by races that charge $200 and $300 marathon prices to get into them, and then other races which are $100 races. Park run is free. There's 3,000 of them around the world. A British guy, they're celebrating their 20th anniversary this year, and they have thousands of these all over the world. About six of them in the Washington area. I love the Roosevelt Island one because it's cross country over the trails and the
Oh, cool.
boardwalk and all of that. So
how does one get the QR code? How do you
all
do?
you do is Google park run, and then you set yourself up with a QR code. Print 20 of them so that if you lose 19 of them, you still have it. You must have your QR code, a print of it that they can scan at the end and match to the time blob that they give you. And then within 1 to 2 hours, I'm sure I've got it already, you get your results. They're up, your place in the age group, how it ranks among your best, how you rank. They even have the age grading among your age worldwide. It's an amazing group, and they're all so dedicated to it, and it's free anywhere in the world. So I've been to London, I've been to other
Sure.
states, Arizona. You Google it, and chances are better than 50-50. You've got one where you are. I
So it's
love the
not like
park
trying
run
to get the
movement.
lotto to get the New York City Marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think running should be of the earth, by the earth. I purposely I'm looking out my window at deer trails, 4 miles of deer trail where I love to run. So that's what I think running should be. It's of and by the earth, and you're trotting on it. I go when my wife and I go to vacations, we make sure it has a lap pool for her and trails for me. So that's our motive is to be impassioned about
You,
staying in
you,
shape and being able to do that.
you mentioned college. Where did you run collegiate NCAA, or did you just run intramural? What was your
Well, little
station?
NCAA, category zilch. Yeah, Oberlin College. And yeah, I finally made it to be, that was my objective, to be first
Division
man.
2 or 3 is that?
I don't even know. It was small college. I don't think they.
But you ran meets.
Oh, absolutely. I ran in them. Sure.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I was third in the Ohio Conference and all of that. Yeah. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. In fact, the highlight of my college career was they have a mid early season meet called the Ohio Conference Relays. It was called 52-man teams from all over the colleges of Ohio. Bob Murphy and I won the thing out of all the colleges. Each of you would run a mile, the other guy rests a mile, run a mile, rest a mile, do that 4 times. And I couldn't believe on the 3rd leg, Murphy took the lead. I was able to hold it on the 4th leg. We held the thing, and yay, we won the conference championship at that irrelevant training meet that they used for early season. So the Oberlin College Review, it's posted, in my shelf and everything. Weiner Murphy duo wins Ohio Conference Relays. And yeah, but it's mediocre stuff compared to what I wanted to do, but it was enough, and it kept me running for a lifetime.
No, that's awesome. Well, you did more than I do. I was a walk-on at IU and promptly got hurt my freshman year. But it was under Sam Bell, who you probably know, that coach. He was an Olympic coach one year.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's move on to some of the things that you've done insofar as, I guess, creating a culture of running on the hill. And it's not just you, it's a lot of people. I don't know a lot about these lunchtime runs or after 5 runs that both sides of the aisle join each other on, but explain the culture and some of the interesting stories, maybe even coming to consensus on a run. But I don't know if that happened like on the links, but maybe you just ran and forgot about politics.
We kept politics out of it and made a point of it as we're running.
Yeah.
But we were very good friends. There's some that became outstanding Republican organizers, and I'm a Democratic side organizer. So, but we would at 5:30. Well, actually, we made it 6:30, both for the White House and for Capitol Hill. We created the Capitol Hill Runners, where we'd meet down at the Botanic Gardens after work every day, and it took a lot for anybody, Conyers, Rangel, Pepper, Koch, to persuade me that I needed to stay later than that 6:30. And they knew me. They knew that they get their value out of me, but I'm going to go run. And the White House knew the same thing, that unless it was a real crisis, which was maybe 2 days a month out of the other 30 that they claim were all crises, that I was going to make my running group. And so that's important. That's really important. I think you got to keep it up regardless. And by the way, 5 of our 6 last presidents ran. Obama told me he ran. Bill Clinton told me he ran 30 to 40 miles a week. I've got a picture here running with Clinton right here.
Yeah, let's see what we got.
Here's this big poster of running with Clinton.
Where are you? Where are you, my
I'm
friend?
right here.
There's there me. You are.
And
you're right there front and center.
Eleanor Holmes Norton, and here's Bill Clinton. You got to have this story. It shows amazing disorganization. So we start off at this run for the White House, except he turned around and he looked at everybody. I was the head of the Capitol Hill Runners, so they put me up front.
Yeah.
And by the way, Jay Wind, who everybody knows, is right here too. So
who's next to him in the orange jersey? The fella.
There's your Secret Service guys. So I said, he said, where do we go after we start? And nobody said anything.
Can you tip it up so you get the window reflection? There you go.
So so I said, I'm sure the Secret Service has a route. And no, the Secret Service guy who you just pointed out said, we can go wherever the governor wants, because he was a governor running for president at that point. And so I figured, time to take charge here. I said, well, Governor, I think the best route would be to go down Pennsylvania Avenue right to the White House, because we have the median toe, and that's the picture that they're going to be looking for. And then he said, okay, that's what we'll do. And he started out, he blazed his little speedy legs away, and then it got slower and slower. So he started like 8-minute pace, and we were all then running, because you don't dare run ahead of him at 11-minute pace by the time we were, a half mile into it. But it was an amazing experience. Then Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's right next to us there between Clinton and me, she fell. So Jay and I had to pick her up and keep her going.
Can you point out Jay?
Yeah, well, Jay is right here, but you can't see him.
Okay. And who's to your immediate right?
This is Eleanor Holmes Norton.
No, the behind your shoulder. Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
That guy, he's a Clinton guy. Yeah.
And the other guy, though, you don't know the other guy.
Here's a Clinton guy too.
Okay.
So he had Secret Service with him.
No, I got you. So let me ask you this: Did you ever?
So that was that.
did you ever accompany him on one of his McDonald runs?
Uh, well,
There's that he did that one time as a publicity
I've
stunt.
got, yeah, he would do that, and he jokes about it still to this day. Uh, here, let me tell you about this, okay? Because it really tells the nature of the man. So fast forward 4 months, he's running, and there's a town meeting in Detroit that Conyers, who was early on endorsing him, invited him to, Congressman Conyers. I'm at the door. Clinton walks in, and Conyers is on the other side of the room. He turns to me and says, "Hey, how's your running going? And what's going on?" And all of a sudden, I'm in this conversation with him. And I had to say to him, "Oh, by the way, Congressman Conyers is over there." And then I walked him over because I was getting this glare from Conyers as to why are you having this conversation with him? He's my guest. So I mean, he had an amazing memory of the fact that we had run together for this thing.
I guess he had to have some memory. He made it to president, So
Guy's
although
brilliant. I
that's
have
not
many
necessarily a
pictures, many
qualifier, sometimes it's just good fill-ins from your staff. So I
many
have to.
pictures, many pictures with him all over the place. A lot of pictures with Clinton. Here's one when I ran with Gore, by the way. That's with Al Gore when I ran on his team for the Capitol Challenge.
I'm thinking he was a better runner. Would that be correct?
I, sort of the same. Gore was a
By a
four
shade.
hour. Gore was a 4 hour marathoner, and Clinton, as I said, moved around 8, 9, 10 minutes a mile. So, but
Gotcha.
they both. The point is, look, I'm slower than that now. The point is to keep it
Uh-huh.
up and do it and get in
Of
shape, and
course.
they did it.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about that. Now I want to talk a little bit about your crossover to actual bigwigs in the running industry. Before I do, though, what did you think of the performance of the U.S. in particular in the last Olympics? What did you like? What didn't you like?
Oh, I thought it was spectacular, and I love the strategy that we all learned of go in the inside and catch the guys surprised. We won a
Oh,
couple
Hawker,
races.
right?
Yeah, we won
Hawker.
a
Yeah.
couple races that way, and then the other guys were asleep at the switch, and you're racing up the inside. I loved it, and we had a spectacular set of performances, all of them. So I thought it was great. I watched a lot of that stuff, and
I'm going to give you
how can you
a
not
hot.
be inspired?
Yeah, sure. Overall, I agree with you 100%. I'm going to give you a hot potato. What did you think of the? Was it Noah Lyles?
Well, he won his first race, and then he had COVID, and he was that courageous? A lot of people said it was stupid to let him in the second race when he tested positive for COVID and put everybody at risk. I have a mixed opinion of that, of whether he should have been in that second race. And then you remember he fell flat and he was out of breath and he wasn't himself, and that was the real race he was supposed to have won easily, and he was so physically destroyed by doing it. I think that was maybe a gross mistake, that the Olympics shouldn't have set a model of letting somebody run sick as a dog in that situation. What do you think? You're the doctor. What do you think?
I think that it probably should have been a scratch. That's
Right.
yeah. Hey, let me ask you this. What about the culture though and the smack talk? I don't think we saw, at least when I'm thinking, in the 70s, 80s, Bill Rogers, Boston Billy, Frank Shorter,
Got a picture with Bill at his house.
Marty LaCourie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like so let's start first now. What do you think of all that?
They created the running movement. And Frank became a friend because Jay Wind and I organized the Mobile Masters Mile.
Let's go to present and then work backwards. What do you think of today's culture with some of the smack talk and it's almost like NFL football with some of the pre-game, pre-race predictions, all that stuff. Do you like it or do you not like it
Well, everybody
personally?
can babble, but half of it doesn't come true. I mean, so I don't
Hmm.
know what you mean exactly.
Well, let's take a clip. Let's take a look at this clip, and I'm gonna and you've seen it, but we'll watch it again. This is a friendship that was forged between Steve Prefontaine, who's like legendary and iconic,
Yeah,
and the legendary Frank
Frank
Shorter.
Shorter.
So let's take a look at it, and then we'll talk about it.
Come out and run this race because Viren's backed out and he's not going to be there. And my response was sure. It wasn't a problem. Again, some people would say, "Oh God, my reputation. Oh, I'm not trained for it. Oh, I haven't pointed for it." We were good enough friends that he was asking me a favor, and I knew that even though he'd probably beat me, we were certainly going to have a fun race. He was in better shape than I was at that point in time, and I don't think I was as competitive with him at that particular distance as I'd been even the year before. And sometimes, even though you would think, well, if you're all stressed out from having to organize and put on this meet, that how can you really concentrate and run a race? In a sense, maybe getting to run the race was a blessing. He could just sort of, that's what he did best, and that's what he enjoyed doing probably most.
I thought it was interesting that Frank was willing to do this race when he was out of shape. I don't know that would happen
Oh,
today.
was that the excuse? Because he did. That's not what I heard him say there. He didn't say anything about being out of shape. He just said pre ran. Well, yeah, he said pre was in better shape. Okay, fine. That's what
he did. He did.
Yeah.
But I mean, but he didn't hesitate. It's not like he had Lassie Baron, for whatever reason, decides not to do the race, right? At the last minute.
Look, let me tell you about Frank the man, though, because we became friends.
That's the most important.
I organized him in the Mobile Invitational, and we became friends. And then at the White House, because he wanted to make sure his son didn't think he had to play dirty in sports, Frank wanted to be involved in World Anti and U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. So I sent a note to Barry McCaffrey in a meeting with Bill Hybl, who was president of the U.S. Olympic Committee. When Hybl said who should be on the delegation, I said it should be Frank Shorter. And Hybl said, what about Frank Shorter?
I just want to know the timing. When did that memo take place?
That was all in the late 90s, because the first meetings were 99 and 2000 that created the World Anti-Doping Agency.
So this was already hearkening back to the 76 race that he felt that somebody was doping.
He didn't feel. He had the documentation. He won in, it was at 72, and then in 76, Terpinski doped and beat him. And then he found
how come we don't have more public? I mean, you're telling
There's
me
a lot. You just Google it up. It's and 30,000 East Germans were part of the state doping program and got liver cancer. 30,000 East Germans got sick and sued.
Understood. What's
huge thing?
Tell me this, Bob. What is the current way that the Olympics will identify the Olympic movement and the governing bodies identify a doper and then have the authority to then have the medal given back? And how many years does that go back?
Well, we created it. First of all, I got to show this for context. Here's a picture of me and Frank Shorter at the Mobile Invitational right in Fairfax.
Oh, that's awesome. Hold on. Right. Hold it up closer so I can. So
that's right when I passed Frank.
Oh, man, that's you passing Frank Shorter.
Right. And then here's Frank saying in the program, Bob, you looked great when you went by. So we became friends. And then that's when I brought him to the White House and all of that. So you remember the old culture in the 70s and 80s when the dirty vials were the norm for the Olympics, and they would try to cover them up and not say the Olympics were dirty. We changed that with the World Anti-Doping Agency and the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency to where clean sport became the model, and sponsors would only sponsor if the sport was clean. And now that's the model. And then being transparent and also having a retroactive ability to test, so that if they do something dirty that's not picked up by the tests, but a new test picks it up, they can be retroactively punished also. That's part of it. And to put the words in or other to the list of drugs, that's in the law now, so that they can't say, oh, it wasn't on the list like Russia tried to do, and we can say shaft yourself. Ben, you said you want to keep the language good, so I'm going to use the word shaft yourself. And that because it is the same drug effectively, you just did it by a cosmetic chemical process. So it's gotten so much better in terms of the testing now that it really is difficult for the cheaters to stay that one step ahead they always used to. And all countries have worked very, very hard. There's less than 0.5% now that even test positive, let alone use the drugs that are hidden.
Let me just back up a step. So you create this agency in '99, or you're instrumental in creating the agency, and you recommend Shorter.
Yeah, Dick Pound was the primary force on that. That's right.
Understood. Why then? Because I happen to know a couple people personally, and one of them is Gary Hall Jr., who was very vocal and called out, I think, Amy Van Dyken, amongst others, the darling child. And then there was an Irish swimmer that took an American's gold medal away. She was definitely tested positive, never gave the gold medal back. And this is after '99, I believe. So how come?
Well, they cannot give the gold medal back and be scum at the Olympics in the future and never allowed in. I mean, but Frank told me, we had a news conference in Australia at the Olympics. This was in the process of while it was all being created. So Frank and I and Barry McCaffrey were standing by the wall, and Frank said, "Watch who doesn't come until within 3 days of it." Mary Slaney and Lance Armstrong, because he knew they were going to be dirty and didn't want the drugs to test positive. And if you wait the 3 days, they knew that the drugs would be past testing, but still give the benefit of cheating ability. So he was smart enough to know that. And Frank told us about EPO and steroids and human growth hormone as the three main drug groups that people use to cheat. I mean, he was so smart on the issue.
Well, this is not my area of expertise, but I have read just like other lay people, and I do have a medical background. What I understand from talking to my exercise physiology friends, and I know a PhD that's working up at Howard, just a few miles away from my where I reside in Arlington. He has told me that the advances in the masking agents and the degradation that is currently happening with some of the new waves of doping substances is still surpassing the ability of the agencies. Not that they say that it's not like they're sleeping on it, but there's a lot of money. And look at cycling, for instance, how long it took before they could test with some of the
different doping. All of the Tour de France, all of them were cheating.
Right.
And it was outrageous. But let me tell you what you asked about the ways. It's not only the or other, it's not only the transparency, it's not only the retroactive, and it's not only the direct testing. It's the fact that witnesses now are considered a legitimate source of information to bust people. That's how Armstrong got beat. I did a piece in the Washington Post where there were already 10 witnesses. And so I said, he's guilty as sin. He's going to be busted. And the Post featured it and put a box around it and all that. Then it turned out ultimately 20 witnesses are who busted Armstrong. And that's how he got busted, was by way of the witnesses that were allowed to be a credible source for WADA and the Olympics to bust people and throw them out. So now you've also made progress on entire nation states. Russia has been banned as a country to have their athletes actually represent them. And China hasn't yet. They haven't gotten the guts yet to do China, but they've done Russia. And Russia is banned from the Olympics until they actually show that they clean up their act, because the New York Times had pictures of passing the vial through the cells of the lab so that the person could cheat and claim he had clean fluids. So
well, now you can also store the samples, and
right,
you can have those in perpetuity for as long as they hold up in a freezer.
It's like DNA now. You can go from 30 years ago and either guilt or innocent someone by way of DNA now. It's the same thing.
And you explained to me in our pre-interview that that's because there's new testing procedures that they might pick something up that they didn't even know exists yet.
That's
and now,
right.
Now they have that stored. So
the science goes on, but the backstop is the witnesses.
For sure. I mean, I know, yes, from several cases, that's how the Balco stuff, a lot of that was through
exactly
guilt by association.
And by the way, it's not just running. I busted, and Amy Shipley of the Washington Post busted Tiger Woods, and the reason that he didn't play for years after the girlfriend thing wasn't the girlfriend thing. It was that his face was puffed up. It's the fact that we knew that his trainer was carrying the stuff from Canada to the United States and back. And it was the same trainer that had been involved in dirty drugs with other people. And Woods was using that trainer. So he was dirty on drugs. Tell us about, we got him. But then
tell us about the
most recently, and his face is bulked up again. And I guess they're not testing and they're letting him get away with it and this and that. But anyway.
Money talks. So let me ask you this. What about the more current situation of the last several years with what you think we can learn from Alberto Salazar as a coach and his dealings with doping?
Well, people tell me that he was dirty, and I've heard. I don't have any firsthand experience on the. I do with some stuff like Tiger and Armstrong and Mary Slaney, because I know the deal. I don't really know the deal with Al Salazar, so I'd have to defer to and would, like anybody else, Google and try to get the right sources on the stories out of the press.
All right. Well, I think we'll move on from doping. Let's talk about inclusion. We've got a lot of controversies. We've got gender, and I guess
that's an issue. Every USA track and field, they're the gender people that want to be considered equal. Finally, track and field adopted the same routine as swimming. of you have to have the hormones and the testosterone, and they do it on science basis, and you have to have announced it a year in advance because it is so. This is not where I'm liberal. I'm conservative on this one. You can't steal girls' scholarships, medals, and money. You cannot do that to them. It's unfair. If you have a guy who's and let me do this, and I know it's a family show, but you know what Martina Navratilova said, don't you? The great liberal Martina Navratilova.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
If it has a what, it can't compete as a girl. And she said what the what was.
Okay.
And she got in big trouble for that, but she meant what she said.
All right, fair. So okay, so
and then her point was, if you haven't even had the surgery to take it off, then you're really cheating.
Okay, so let's go in this direction now. It's interesting to me that as late as 1967, and I don't know when the Civil Rights, when did the Civil Rights Act, when was that signed into legislation?
Right after Kennedy died. So aren't we talking like the late 60s?
Yeah, wasn't he killed in 1963?
Three, correct.
So
and then Lyndon Johnson made it a thing.
Yeah, so somewhere in the mid 60s. So 1967, we still have the Boston Marathon, where women are not,
Catherine Switzer, what she did was fantastic.
Well, I heard the story and I heard her own narrative, and I didn't know that this guy Jack Sample. Do you know Jack Sample?
Jock Sample, right? Yeah, right. Yeah.
Jock.
Yeah, I think that's.
I guess he was a jock.
Yeah, really.
He tried to get her off the course, not only once but twice. Came back in the vehicle. How the heck did they become friends after that?
Because she won and got it done, and so you forgive people so you can maximize the getting things done. That's the only explanation I have on that.
I see. I did enjoy.
I can't believe these people who the police victims killed my son. Oh, I forgive him. Really? Okay.
What I did think that was particularly got me kind of right here about that story was that her boyfriend at the time was an all-American football player. And there's a picture of him pretty much shoulder chucking Jock Sample, you say his name was? Yeah, off the course. And I thought that was great. And I think, here she is 20 years old. And I think what she had said, I don't know if she said it verbally or just thought it, but something to the effect of, I'll finish this race if I do it on my hands and knees. And I thought that was a lot of grit.
Yeah, she wasn't going to take anything from those guys. I mean, there was no credible reason.
20-year-old. Can you imagine your 20-year-old daughter having to undergo that? It's unbelievable. Where do you think we are with women racing today? Have we accomplished what we need to accomplish as a society here in the U.S., or is there more to be done?
There's two sides to that story. For the WNBA, they fill 5,000 and 6,000 person arenas. I didn't realize that's why it always looked full. So there is an argument to the money, whether it should be equal or not, unless you can draw the same. But thank God soccer has really broken the ice on that. They deserve everything that they're getting and doing because, wow, have they been a model for it. So I'm for equality, but equality has to mean equality.
Okay. Let's move on now to the longevity and how you've managed. You said that you're kind of the Cal Ripken approach of just keeping going and staying regular with it. But or I guess at this point, any other things that you think that you'd like to impart for people, with your love of the sport of running?
Well, ageism is as odious as racism or sexism. That's what we used to say on the mandatory retirement bill, and that soundbite scored. The same is true of running. Masters, we've had 104-year-old women, Julia Hawkins, Hurricane Hawkins. We had a news conference with her when she was 101 and won the race and set a world record. And I brought in I was the media director for Masters Track then. And so we brought in the 90-year-olds too, so it wouldn't be just her by herself. And the media was asking, well, what'd you do different for this meet? And the others say, oh, well, I trained, I ate this, I drank that. And Julia Hawkins said, I missed my nap to do this, which I thought was a great soundbite. Then they said, do you eat differently? And then the 90-year-old said, yes, I don't do wine. And Julia Hawkins said, I eat and drink whatever I want. She's the 101-year-old. Now she's 104, still going strong. So I think, we got to let these people be their own powerful selves. Um, but they die. The sad thing is I talked to um, Gary Snyder, who was the president that I worked with for like 10 or 15 years as media chair, and he was the president of Masters Track. He was just great. And he said the sad thing is, yes, they die because what you're really doing, and the numbers show it, is you gain 10 years on your life with a fitness program. So if you have the Washington Post did a survey of all the surveys and showed that with every other day you gain 9 years. If it's more intense, you gain more years. So my spiels, you gain 10 years on your life with a regular fitness program, regular intense fitness, but it's going to get you sometime. I mean, you're not immune from death.
Unless you have a silent heart issue, like what happened with the
Jim
prominent.
Fixx.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there are people that die young, and there's when I can't remember his name, but the superstar sprinter died at 80, and he's been with going gung ho and all that. And so sure, it's gonna happen.
Well, I will tell you this about some of the athletes that die young. I think that some of that, and I'm not saying the prominent runner, was it George Sheehan or Jim Fixx? Which one had the heart issue?
Jim Fixx.
Jim Fixx.
Yeah.
Yes, Jim Fixx. Other athletes, though, have had the signs of doping and then did die early of a cardiac related event. So
you mean related to their use of drugs?
In any sport, not just running.
Don't ask certain demographics what the real issue was with FloJo, or you get in big trouble as to why she died so young. And all of her organs were giant, and there's a real issue there. So
well,
I mean, that's absolutely true what you're saying.
What pathologists do is they look at pathology. They're not looking at the color of the skin. They're looking at
right, of course.
Science. Yeah. All right. So let's finish up with this. I'm sure you've got more than 10 funny stories, but maybe just to keep things light on a very tense election cycle, tell us 2 of your more funny stories or encounters that you've had with runners and or situations related to your role with Masters Track and Field, and then we'll finish with contacts of how to get involved.
Well, I love him. You probably know Bruce McDonald. I mean, Bruce
I don't.
Barnett, Bruce McBarnett, the great high jumper. He's local from out toward Manassas, Virginia. And
don't know him.
I love putting him in the media because, now he's 60 and just won World Masters again in the high jump. And he's local for Potomac Valley Track Club. And he can put himself into a pretzel. His positions, they're just great. They're very humorous, in terms of what he can do. And it's the ability that he has maintained for himself through flexibility to do his high jump. So that's one of the fun things that we like to do.
Any unexpected turns in a race or running into people that you had across the years with with your role in races or on the hill?
Well, Willie Banks and I'm trying to remember his name, FloJo's coach. And
wasn't Willie Banks with the Chicago Bears?
No.
Willie Banks was with who? Who was Willie with?
Willie was the head of the U.S. Olympians and the triple jump champion.
Okay,
he's been so supportive. I mean, he really gives everything he can to Masters Track. I love the people that love the sport and love the mission and work for the mission. And the downside is when Masters Track gets personal and petty and political, and like anytime you put 2 people in a room and you play politics. So that's the downside of it is lack of support when somebody just wants to do their own thing and not really support the sport.
Well, how do people get involved, Bob, if you want to go to an open Masters Track meet? How would one pursue that?
Well, now, are you a national podcast or a regional one for this area? Because the Potomac Valley Track Club.
Well, why don't you give? No, it's national, so why don't you give both?
Okay. Well, okay. So there's like 150 track clubs. Go to track clubs at usatf.org and then look up your local track club, and every one has a powerful Masters contingent. We get 200 teams. Potomac Valley has won the National Masters 3 of the last 10 years. It's amazing what they've done locally. But Southern Cal has won more than Potomac Valley. So Mark Cleary and Craig Chassie are two of the great organizers, East Coast, West Coast, in terms of Masters track. So you have to find a track club, and then they have training sessions on weeknights, and they have meets, local, regional.
I know Jay, you mentioned Jay runs a
Jay
youth
Wind is a good
program
organizer.
yeah, at
Yeah,
Thomas Jefferson Middle School here in Arlington. I've
right.
been to it. Yeah.
So he's another person you can contact about joining the training sessions. So I would urge anyone who's out there for lifetime fitness and health through training and competition. That's the motto of Masters Track: lifetime fitness and health through training and competition. Join, and don't think you have to be fast to do it. You do not. It's any ability, all ways, all paces is our local club's motto. So by all means, join and help yourself. Ben, are you in any of the local clubs, for example?
I play a lot of soccer, and
Okay,
I run for cross training. I do show up and talk about podiatry and injuries and running,
that's
and
great.
naturally with my profession.
Well, you
Uh,
keep people healthy, and I think that's really,
yeah.
really important. So you're an overarching person, and I think that's great. Uh, so people should contact you as well, and be able to find
Well,
out how to stay
how does
healthy.
one so just to give it a frame, you've sort of been in this quasi sort of James Carville role
Yeah,
to
yeah.
politicos, like, and is he a runner, by the way? James Carville? I have no
Yes,
idea.
I've actually seen him out, and we've crossed running. Absolutely, he is a runner.
That is
Bill
awesome.
Clinton was a runner, and
Well, there's a doc right
Jimmy
now
Carter was a
about
runner.
there's a doc right now about his advisory role and in our recent election, a documentary coming out. I heard it on NPR. So
On Carville.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's finish up with how would one reach out to you if and tell us the capacity other than your role as being involved with Masters Running, that one would reach out to you for what reasons to tap into to what
Well,
you have
people,
to offer. Mm-hmm.
well, I'm not advertising me, but if people want to contact me, wienerpublic@comcast.net is my email. I'm very open about it. WEINERPUBLIC, wienerpublic@comcast.net. And I told you what Jay Leno said. Only in the Clinton sex case would there be someone with my last name testifying.
Yeah,
And then he said,
yeah.
"What was Dick Armey not available?" And and my brother saw that, and then he called me the next day and he said, "I hope you weren't offended." And I said, "Oh no, do you know I have a cousin named Dick Weiner?" And he said, "You're kidding."
Listen, it was great to have you. Lots of
Terrific.
stories. Happy trails. And
Thank you.
what's your next mission? What do you got coming up next?
Well, my wife, I'll show her a picture. There she
There
is.
she is. Hello.
Pat's got her Senior Olympics hat on. She just won a
Nice.
silver and a bronze in the Maryland Senior Olympics swimming, and it took the top four to qualify for National Senior Olympics. So we're going to go out to her meet in Iowa and give her support, and I'm her lap counter.
Oh, very nice. Well, I'm glad you make it a family affair, and that is encouraging that you both sort of spurn each other on for fitness.
Yeah,
I wish you both the best.
you too, Ben.
Listen, till next time. Thank you so much. Till next time. This is Dr. Ben Pearl with Fitfoot U.
Very nice to be with you.